The MCU is full of superheroes, but there are still a bunch that have been teased or fans have been waiting for, yet they haven't shown up. There are plenty to choose from, but here are our top 10 picks. 10. Captain Britain. Brian Braddock became Captain Britain after receiving the Amulet of Right, which granted him enhanced strength and speed. While he initially took on the role to protect his homeland, he soon found himself part of something much bigger, the Captain Britain Corps, tasked with defending his Earth within the vast Omniverse. With the MCU diving deep into the multiverse, now would be the perfect time to introduce Captain Britain on the big screen. He spent years exploring alternate realities, teaming up with groups like Excalibur and the Secret Avengers, and serving as an agent of MI-13. Any of these storylines could make for an epic live-action debut. In Avengers Endgame, the MCU may have subtly hinted at Captain Britain's existence during the 1970 time heist scene, where Peggy Carter mentions that Braddock hasn't checked in recently. This could reference Brian Braddock, who becomes Captain Britain in the comics after a major accident, or possibly his father, Sir James Braddock, a key figure in the Captain Britain Corps. While it's a small detail, many fans see it as a potential setup for Brian's eventual MCU debut, especially with the franchise's growing focus on the multiverse. 9. Miles Morales. He may be a relatively new character in the comics, but the MCU has already hinted at his existence. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover plays Aaron Davis, Miles' uncle, which lays the groundwork for his eventual introduction. Davis even mentions having a nephew, clearly referring to Miles, and a deleted scene confirms this with a phone call to him. With Tom Holland's Peter Parker getting another movie just before Doomsday, Miles has a chance to officially join the MCU in it. This makes sense because of his growing popularity thanks to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the hit video games. His big screen debut might be closer than we think. 8. Original android Human Torch. Most people know the Fantastic Four's Human Torch and are excited to see him debut in the MCU, especially with Fantastic Four on the way. We already got a brief return of Chris Evans' version in Deadpool and Wolverine, but that was short-lived. However, the MCU has actually teased the original android Human Torch before. He was one of Marvel's first ever characters, debuting in Marvel Comics #1 back in 1939. A nod to him appeared in Captain America: The First Avenger, when Steve Rogers visits the Stark Expo. There's a display for Dr. Phineas Horton Presents The Synthetic Man, referencing the scientist who created him in the comics. It's unclear if or when this version of Human Torch will show up in the MCU, but in the comics, he was once part of Captain America's Invaders. 7. Ghost Rider. Over the years, several characters have taken on the mantle of Ghost Rider, but none are as iconic as Johnny Blaze. A fearless daredevil, Johnny made a deal with the devil to save his father's life, only to become the fiery spirit of vengeance, riding his blazing motorcycle and punishing the wicked. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. introduced the Robbie Reyes version of Ghost Rider, but with the show's MCU canon status in question, his future remains uncertain. Now, with Deadpool and Wolverine paving the way for R-rated films in the MCU, there's no better time for Johnny Blaze to finally make his big screen debut. A new theory suggests that Agatha all along might be laying the groundwork for Ghost Rider's arrival in the MCU. The show introduces Jennifer Kale, a witch skilled in potions who's part of Agatha's coven. Though initially blocked from using her powers, she regains them by the season's end. In the comics, Jennifer is actually Johnny Blaze's cousin, which could be a subtle setup for Ghost Rider's eventual debut. If that's the case, Jennifer's character might play a key role in his introduction down the line. 6. Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill, a fan-favorite cosmic character, was subtly teased in Thor Ragnarok. In one scene, past champions of Sakaar are shown, and one of them appears to be a Corbinite, most likely Bill himself. In the comics, he's a worthy successor to Thor and the rightful wielder of Stormbreaker. After this tease, many expected him to debut in Thor: Love and Thunder, but that didn't happen. However, producer Kevin Feige reassured fans, saying it was so quick and it just didn't do it justice. And the feeling is, if you can't do it justice, do it later. So while he hasn't shown up yet, it sounds like Marvel is waiting for the right moment to bring Beta Ray Bill into the MCU properly. 5. Nova. The MCU has subtly hinted at the arrival of Nova, one of Marvel's greatest cosmic heroes. While Richard Rider hasn't been mentioned by name, Guardians of the Galaxy introduced the Nova Corps, including Roman Day, played by John C. Reilly, who in the comics passes his powers to Ryder before dying. Though the MCU's version of the Nova Corps differs from the comics, their existence lays the groundwork for Nova's introduction. Avengers Infinity War even set up a perfect origin story by showing that Thanos decimated Xandar and the Corps off-screen. In fact, the MCU has been developing a project centered on Nova, the cosmic superhero. Initially, plans were set for a Disney Plus series featuring the Richard Rider version of the character, with Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige indicating a potential release 3 to 4 years out, placing it around 2027 or 2028. However, recent developments have led to the project being put on indefinite hold as Marvel Studios reassesses its upcoming slate. But that does not mean he is out of the picture entirely, as Kevin Feige has confirmed Nova has immediate potential in the MCU, so his debut might not be far off, maybe just not with his own project. 4. Moondragon. The MCU has quietly set up Moondragon's potential arrival. In the comics, Heather Douglas is actually the daughter of Drax the Destroyer, aka Arthur Douglas. While the MCU changed Drax's backstory quite a bit, he did mention having a daughter. In the comics, Heather wasn't actually killed. She was rescued by Thanos' father and went on to develop powerful psychic abilities. Since the MCU has already taken some creative liberties with Drax, they might tweak Moondragon's origin too. But as long as they keep her tied to Drax, she technically already exists in the MCU, she just hasn't shown up yet. 3. Amadeus Cho. According to insider Daniel RPK, Ghostbusters Afterlife star Logan Kim has reportedly been cast as the young genius who eventually becomes the Hulk. Introduced in the comics in 2005, Cho is one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe and even takes on the Hulk mantle in Totally Awesome Hulk. With rumors swirling about the MCU setting up a future with multiple Hulks, including Banner, She-Hulk, and now Cho, it'll be interesting to see how he fits into the larger story. Whether he teams up with Bruce Banner or eventually replaces him, this could be a game-changer for the Hulk's legacy in the MCU. 2. Brother Voodoo. Brother Voodoo, aka Jericho Drumm, has already been hinted at in the MCU through his brother Daniel Drumm, who appeared briefly in Doctor Strange before getting killed by Caecilius. Since there wasn't any mention of Jericho at the time, his brother's death could be the perfect setup for his eventual introduction. Rumors suggest he might finally show up in Doctor Strange 3, so his MCU debut could be happening sooner rather than later. 1. Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards, the son of Reed Richards and Susan Storm, eventually took on the name Powerhouse thanks to his insane levels of cosmic energy. While his powers have weakened over time, different versions of him have shown just how strong he can be. One even made Galactus his personal herald. With the Fantastic Four set to join the MCU in Phase 6, starring Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Backrack, we'll finally see Reed and Sue on screen. But as for their son Franklin and his reality-warping powers, fans might have to wait a bit longer for his big debut. That's a wrap for now. Which of these Marvel characters are you most excited to see in the MCU? Or is there someone else you think deserves a spot on the big screen? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. We've got plenty more updates, theories, and breakdowns coming your way. We'll see you next time.